Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the True to Life podcast. And this episode is pretty cool. A lot of people I interview are people I work with in a professional setting, business setting, school setting. And now I have the amazing opportunity to sit down with a family member, my uncle. And the reason why this is special is because he also played basketball at Humboldt from 1995 to 2000, which he'll be getting into. But whenever people ask me, if I have any family members that have played basketball or have any history playing basketball, I always reference you and obviously Grandpa, your dad, Art, and obviously Uncle Tyler too. But you're the only one that played college basketball and college athletics, which is what this podcast is geared towards. So I have a lot of respect for what you did athletically, but also where you've transitioned into career-wise with healthcare and now bringing technology into the healthcare world. So I'm looking forward to talking about athletics, healthcare, and the way that we live and work in our busy worlds today. So to take you back, jump into the time machine, what were some of your favorite memories at Humboldt State?
Oh man, that just took me back a long time ago. It was 2000 seems like it was a long time ago. But I think my best memories at Humboldt were, in high school, I guess first. I'll go backtrack a little more. And in high school, we used to go up to Humboldt in the summer, and there was a huge summer league tournament of, I don't even know, it seems like it was like 50 teams, but and I remember that was like the first taste of college. And we lived in the dorms and kind of were there for, I don't know, maybe 7 days, 10 days. It was one of those ones where you play like 3 games a day and you're just like beat by the end of the day.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah. But I think I got to meet the coaches on that, and it just happened the year going into my senior year. Our team actually won that whole tournament. So that obviously helped, got a little more visibility, but, I think it was like, so that part is like I remember that because as I was debating playing basketball or football in college, and, and then and I felt like I had to make a decision between those two, but I really liked basketball better. May have been questionably a better football player, but so maybe things would have worked out differently if I did that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing about Humboldt memory was just incorporating college with athletics, and being obviously going towards the goal of a degree, but also also like making new friends, developing this team, being there for essentially 5 years. We can get into some of the years that I missed, but I think it's like the totality of it. And I guess the last thing I'd say is like, Humboldt was the last Division II conference when I was there that was non-scholarship. So, and that was like for the first 2 years I was there, and then things changed up and they started offering scholarships. So I was kind of in this weird like hybrid thing where they had already got me there before there was money, and then there was a little bit of money to help
Down the road.
Yeah, down the road.
So one thing that I think about so far as I'm going into my senior year in college athletics is all the transferable skills that I've learned that I believe that I'll be able to transfer into whatever I pursue after college. What do you think sticks out for you of those skills you took in college that you've been using in your career life and life after sports?
Yeah, I think I actually talk about this a bit, like, just with teams that I've worked with in the professional world and in healthcare. But I think the biggest thing is like you learn to be able to work as a team with like different people, different perspectives, different skill sets, right? Like basketball is like a perfect example of, there's only 5 players on the court, but like each player has kind of a unique aspect to their position, that they're really the best at on the court for that 5 at the time. And I think in professional life, you're always going to work with teams, and you're going to work with people you do like and you don't like, just like in basketball. We've all had teammates that we really like and some that we would probably not hang out with if we had the choice. So I think that's probably like the biggest kind of sport lesson, is that it just it teaches you like how to be able to potentially work with people that you don't particularly like, or like that you don't really like. But on the court, you got to be able to come together as a team, because the whole mission of the game is to win the game, and come out at the end scoring more than the other team. So I think that's very transferable to professional life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about even in college, like the stuff that I do that's not work related, but it is all in teams. That's like for PSAC, which is like the student leadership group. It's all get people organized into groups. You have like your committee chairs, you have like your organizational structure, president, vice president, and even that's like preparing for what like a professional job setting could look like. Outside of that, what do you think from the athletic side? What do you think? I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this question, because after college you went into medical school and that's what you pursued. Do you feel like your time in college athletics prepared you for what was to come down the road?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say the biggest thing is like, obviously during the season of a college sport, you're really busy, with traveling, games, practices, shoot-arounds, whatever. And, I think it's like you're also like a college student, like everybody else.
Yeah.
And you're traveling, and you have to, I think like it kind of forced you to be, it forced me to be a better student. Can't say that's the case for all athletes.
Yeah.
Like I think some of them, it makes them maybe not a good student. But for me, it forced me to, because I knew timelines had to be met for, projects, assignments, things like that were due from just a college class perspective. And so it, again, I was, like you mentioned, I was in college like 95, 2000. That was like when laptops were invented.
Yeah.
Just to like put it in perspective. And they were very expensive and they sucked. Like they were just really heavy. And so like on the road, it was like hard to like do work. I mean, unless it was like work that I was doing on like paper. So, it kind of just taught me to get stuff done ahead of time, time management, and making sure I'm getting the things done that I know I have to for class, even with the athlete kind of life.
So did you know that you wanted to go into medicine before you got into college athletics, or is that something that you learned along the way?
No, I did not. I started out as a math major in college. That's at least what I applied for. And, I kind of thought I loved math like in high school and before that even. And I figured, and I loved sports. So I figured I would be kind of like a teacher coach. Figured that would be what I would kind of go into. Because going into college, I really didn't have like a super clear idea of what I wanted to necessarily do for my career other than that. And it's mainly because I like teaching and I like sports. So it was kind of, But what I did in early, I think it was my freshman year, I took this class that was like an intro to kinesiology. So like the kind of the human performance sciences. And obviously there's an aspect of that I could have been you can become like a PE teacher or something, and that's a great degree to get. But I think that class opened my mind up to a lot of other aspects of kinesiology. And it showed that there was like this like very fitness side, there was like this clinical side, and I again didn't know what I was going to do in college, so I actually pursued graduate school before I decided to go to med school. So it was actually in graduate school in San Diego. I went to San Diego State. It was a year into it, and that's when I decided to go to medical school. And it was because of an internship I did at a local hospital. I was working in cardiac rehabilitation, which is like where folks come after they've had a heart attack or bypass surgery or a stent put in, and they would come to that program to learn how to adapt like a healthier lifestyle and exercise as a part of their life. And so I really enjoyed that. And it was it's an interesting rehab. It's an interesting type of rehab in that as when you work in that, you work both in the hospital providing education, like in the bedside, like as patients are recovering from whatever happened. And then you also have this like ambulatory outpatient thing where you get to form all these relationships with people and like you can see where they start and kind of where they finish after their 12-week program, and how many of them stayed on and almost used cardiac rehab as like a social exercise gym. And so it was one of my mentors there. She was the one that kind of plugged me and said, hey, do you want to do this the rest of your life, or have you ever thought about doing something else in healthcare? And at that point, up till then, I'd never even thought of it, to be honest. And but she kind of planted the seed that summer, and then so that next fall semester, not only was I going to finish my graduate degree, but I had to go back and take a bunch of undergrad classes, like organic chemistry and physics and things like that. But I was able to do that, at the same time. So that's when I actually decided to go to med school. That.
I mean, one of the famed questions that high schoolers get, and even once they get into college, is what are you going to do after college? Or what are you going to do after high school? Like, it's always asking like what the plan is. And I think like young people are so tired of hearing that question. But hearing your story, and it's okay to not have the answers, year one of college, year two, year three, year four. It's like even you get into that graduate year, you're San Diego State, and then you're exposed to those new things. And it's okay to not have everything all figured out, I think is good to hear, because not everyone knows right away, and like the path kind of unfolds like on their own. What was like your input from your parents of like any pressure on like what field to go into or anything like that, or was it all up to you to kind of decide what it is that you want to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like as a growing up, there was definitely, I mean, I wouldn't call it a pressure, but I think there was like an understanding that we would go to college, as part. So I kind of like knew that growing up, but no, my parents never pushed us into anything specifically. They kind of, I think it was like a balance of, our kind of pushed us towards academic interests and other kind of extracurricular interests like throughout. And they were always they were open to all that. And so I never felt like there was pressure to do one or the other. I think they would have been just as happy if I ended up pivoting and becoming an artist or something, and not going into what I did. So, and I think I don't think every kid is like that. I mean, I think some people have like strong pressure from parents. I mean, plenty of people in my med school class, I don't think actually really wanted to go into medicine, but it was like kind of set up as their destiny almost, like as a kid. And so they did it, and I think they're ultimately okay and happy with it, but it definitely wasn't the case for me.
So if you were to give some advice to the student athletes, obviously health and wellness is super important. What would be your advice to them, like general health, long-term, short-term, whatever's coming to mind that, student athletes or just people in general should be aware, thinking more of like the younger crowd, like 18 to 24?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll put a little bit more of my physician hat on now, and I think, so much of what we do, I would say, in our young, like adult life, so put that like 20s to 35 or whatever. I just made that up. That's not like the definition, but 20 to 35, I would say, I think those are pretty pivotal years that kind of set up your health, like going forward. And, I think like just recently there was my high school had like its 30th high school reunion. I wasn't able to go back for it, but it's like just looking at the photos of the event, it's like you could see people that I could pick out most people in the pictures, but like there were some people that definitely looked a lot older than me, and then some that still looked the same. And and I think there's stuff that you can do to your body and to yourself, like in those early adult years, that your body is so resilient, and it's gonna you're gonna still be able to wake up the next day and do whatever you need to do, but it's like slowly like eating away at some of your, I would call it your long-term health.
Yeah.
And those are things you don't see when you're a young adult, because you feel pretty invincible because nothing hurts. You're fit if you do any sort of exercise, but you pretty much all have the capability to be pretty active. But I think that's probably the thing that we don't have anything really good in medicine to show people that what they're doing at that period in their life is actually making up what it's going to be like for them in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. other than, if somebody's like morbidly obese, like that's visibly, you could say, okay, you can see that person is obese. But other than that, there's plenty of people that look totally fine and like don't appear any different. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then out of everything that you can do, I mean, I think we all know you shouldn't like smoke cigarettes and, do that sort of stuff. But like, I mean, I think honestly, the biggest thing that people can do is maintain some sort of level of physical activity. And I think a lot of folks don't realize that it doesn't actually take much to like actually have a substantial positive impact. Even just walking 150 minutes a week at a decent pace, not one that you would even be out of breath, but like that's actually enough to make a better benefit than lots of other things that could be other interventions. So, that was a bit kind of zoomed out, but also.
No, and the one thing to add, I think for student athletes, you're right. We do feel invincible, like especially in college, and a lot of our training is geared around competition. So then once like the student athlete era of our life is gone, it's like we don't have the competition driving us anymore necessarily. So it's like finding those other things to, stay healthy and stay moving. That's why doing like the boxing in Denver, for example, is a perfect example of a fun way to exercise and move your body that's not basketball for me, because basketball has been the engine and the catalyst for like all my activity every single day. I have one more season left. It's like I'm gonna have to find other ways to stay active and move, and it's so important because you kind of get consumed by your sport. And for you, it's two sports, football and basketball. Finding other ways to just stay moving, and it doesn't have to be intimidating. It can be as simple as a walk, simple as like a it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be 150 minutes. I think everyone has that in their week.
It's not that much.
The other thing I wanted to just get your thoughts on was sleep and how important that was in addition to diet. I think like sleep's probably like the second most important thing you can do, and it's controllable, and every single day, every 24-hour cycle, you have an opportunity to get a good sleep cycle. So do you have anything to add in terms of the benefits of sleep for student athletes and how important that is, and to not neglect it, even though you feel great waking up the next day, regardless?
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of goes back to, what I said before is that you don't really realize like what a lack of like good sleep does to you. But it's critically important. And, I think if you take the totality of our life, there's one thing that we spend the most time doing more than anything else. And that's actually sleeping, which is like kind of sad in a way, but it's obviously important, right? If you think like that is, if our bodies need that much time for something, it's probably important from a biological factor, right? And so, and again, kind of when you're young, I mean, you can just go, and you can like, you can operate on like a few hours of sleep. You don't feel great, but like you can still kind of function. And
sneak in a cup of coffee and jam through.
Yeah. And like even as an adult, you could power through some of that.
Yeah.
Like traveling where you're up all night in a plane or whatever. I mean, like everyone has to go through that. But like I think if you do it repeatedly like that and you just have a poor quality of sleep, it's going to lead to significant health problems down the road. Like sleep is, and I guess the biggest buckets I'd say is like sleep is just so good for your brain and your mind. So like just from a mental health standpoint, like if you're not consistently getting sleep, it's going to start messing with you with time. And I think and then obviously just for recovery. So both brain recovery and like physical recovery, it's just it's so important. And I think it's underemphasized, with the exception of like some of the new devices that can at least measure your sleep. I mean, I know you wear your Apple Watch because you love seeing those cycles. Like, I mean, that didn't exist a while, like that long ago. And it's pretty cool that we can monitor our sleep with, home devices. And there's lots of things out there to help you get better sleep, that are consumer devices too.
100%. Like, I go back to like the short-term versus long-term thinking, and I've done like solo pod about it and talked about it like briefly, but I really like how you've laid it out. It's like we're really not seeing the damage of like our day-to-day decisions. Because say like when you stub your toe, like you're feeling that pain like right away, like, ow, that hurts, I'm not going to do that again. But you get 2-3 hours of sleep and then you wake up, you're not feeling like an instant shot of pain necessarily. So we're not getting like that instant feedback. And it's just, I guess all we can do is be aware of it and try to course our actions as much as we can. One thing I just realized is I didn't really go much into your background or credential necessarily, so I did want to open that up for you if you could add like your credential of what you're doing like kind of in the last like 5-6 years, but then also what you're doing like right now.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're giving all this medical-ish advice type stuff. So yeah, I thought it'd be helpful to have a credential.
Yeah, so I am a physician. I got a medical degree. So I'm a family physician. That's the specialty I went into. So that's 3 years extra after medical school for that residency. Mm-hmm. And then, pretty soon in my residency career, I got really interested in kind of the technical aspects of healthcare mm-hmm. too, and just the electronic health records that were coming about during that time. So again, I guess just to frame up, like when I was training, there were some electronic health records, but there was a fair amount of stuff that was still done on paper. Mm-hmm. So that was like right in that transition period when I was finishing medical school or during medical school and then after. And so I started to really get involved in that too. And so, so I've always maintained clinical practice as a family physician. Originally, it was kind of like my own paneled practice through Kaiser, where I worked for 13 years. But eventually, over time, I started working more and more on the technical side in that type of role. So I ended up serving on what's called informatics, which is kind of the bridge between clinical and technology. And I served as the chief medical informatics officer for Colorado's Kaiser Permanente for many years before I left last year. And the reason why I left is because I had an itch for, call it like the startup life, but also just something in healthcare where a group of people were trying to do things differently. Mm-hmm. And so, I think kind of finding a way to be a part of something to change the way we necessarily do stuff in healthcare, because there's plenty of stuff that's not working great. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be a part of that. So I joined a startup really early when it was still very stealthy. Ultimately now it's called General Medicine. At the time it was like a different name, and we were kind of operating, but in a little bit of secrecy. So I've been there for the last year now. I just had my year kind of anniversary with them, and then I also do like some consulting with this type of health technology mm-hmm. as well through my company that I have with my good physician friend called NerdMDs, and we'll help small, medium, large, or venture capitalists looking for opinions on
mm-hmm.
the landscape of different aspects of healthcare. So I'm able to do that as well, kind of on the side between things. And
no, it's been really cool watching it kind of transform, because I remember like at least what I remember is like the first house you were living in Denver, when you were primarily just the family care physician at Kaiser, and then watching that like transformation of how you slowly started adding things to it. I think you added like the Tech Dad Co. Then you added, I don't know like the order in which it was, but then there was a podcast and NerdMDs, and now it's General Medicine and whatever future startups or could maybe be down the road. Like I've seen it kind of evolve in the last like 5 years or so as I've been going through high school, and it's been cool to see you're also going down like a startup business like avenue now, and like that's the avenue that I'm like hungry to go down right now too. So it's been cool to share ideas and talk about the new emerging ideas that are going on. You're still more in healthcare, but also just in technology and managing information, fielding meetings. Like there's so much crossover between like business and sharing ideas. And there's so much to learn from each other. And it kind of segues into my next question: is us living now in like an information lifestyle. Like we have our phones where we're getting notifications, we're getting all these different inputs from the news, things our friends are telling us. Like we're flooded with so much information every single day. How do you deal with that, combat it, organize it to help keep yourself organized?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because there's a lot of noise that's
mm-hmm.
hitting us from all over the place, and I think what I've kind of figured out, at least over time, is you just have to compartmentalize that noise in ways, So thankfully some of our technology tools that we use like support some of this. Like, obviously before this podcast, we both like turned on Do Not Disturb or like, and I think you can have like different pieces like that. And I've found like as I've just got, different leadership roles where I'm like super busy and you're basically like bouncing almost from, in some cases like meeting to meeting to meeting. And that is like your whole day. You actually don't have, if you don't plan for it, you won't have time to actually do the things that you want to actually like work on. And so, I mean, it's a very simple strategy and you can do this while you're in college. Like, obviously you have your class schedule and any other sort of extracurriculars that are taking up time, but like put on your calendar, like specific time that you want to do stuff. So if you want to dedicate just a portion of your day to like professional social media, like say you want to spend time on LinkedIn, like just kind of writing stuff, engaging, like put that on your calendar.
Carve it out.
Yeah, just carve it out. And I think like doing those types of things can allow you to still fit in a lot of things, while still being busy, but keeping you organized. So I live or die by my calendar. I'll just say that. Like, if my calendar all of a sudden disappeared the next day, it'd be real
flailing.
Bad. Real bad.
One thing we talked about at dinner last night was hearing your kids' thoughts on AI. But what you and I were talking about, like in between all the noise, was how if artificial intelligence can make the day-to-day tasks, those mundane tasks like going through email, making a social media graphic, sending mass emails, or for anything that you use artificial intelligence for, if it can make those tasks go faster, to have time to work on things that you actually want to work on and things that actually excite you, and not those like mundane like tasks that you got to do but you don't really want to do but you need them, then that's a pretty cool space to be in. And yes, I think there is a scary side of all this technology, all of this unknown. But one thing I wanted for you to share on this podcast was a little bit about that unknown with AI. And college students are using it now more than ever. It sounded like even your daughter was even saying even the kids in middle school now going into high school are using it to cheat on science tests or do whatever it is in school. It is here now more than ever. But from a professional lens, how can we begin to grapple with some of this change? And what do you see for the future with artificial intelligence?
Yeah. No, it is. I think, I think I mentioned this last night too, but I think every piece of technology or advancement that we have, it brings good and the bad, right? I mean, like you take like social network, like Facebook or I guess MySpace technically preceded that, but like, so Facebook, came on and that was something that was, had a lot of positive, right? It was a way that you could connect with people that you hadn't connected with in a while. You could share photos, you could comment on their photos, there was like this digital social connection. Well, what's the bad of that, right? I mean, there was all sorts of bad that came from it too, right? I mean, now it's sad, but you'll look in like a restaurant and like we'll be out to dinner with my family and I'll just like glance around the restaurant and like there'll be over half the people sitting there on their phones.
Crazy.
And they're sucked into these, platforms that, really do like satisfy something in our brain. And I mean, we could go into the science of that, but it's basically dopamine. Like that's purely what those things are doing for you. And so there is like this like biology behind it. But I think, so I look at kind of any sort of artificial intelligence that's going to take away tasks that humans have had to do, as like there's going to be lots of benefits and there's going to be potential downsides. And so, let's take like medicine, for example. I think consumers want tools that can give them better insights,
answers quicker.
Into their health. And because the traditional way now is like, if you have a question or a concern, it's like you have to, go on your portal, schedule an appointment,
2 or 3 days.
Then you have to drive into the office. You have to sit in the waiting room. You have to check in on a kiosk. It's like, it's not the way like we operate. And so, I think AI is going to be able to help consumers and clinicians in those ways to help clear up the mundane and allow to really focus on what's important. And are there going to be bad things that happen? Yes. Like, are these technical tools always going to be perfect? Are they going to give wrong advice? Yes. Do doctors give wrong advice all the time? Not all the time, hopefully. That'd be a bad doctor, but in general they do. Nobody's perfect. So I just think like I always keep in mind like the net positive, like all these things that have come out, smartphones, social media, AI and healthcare, they all have a positive and negative spin, but I firmly believe like it can be a net positive more than a net negative. And it's going to always be a tug war between those two.
I think it's good to have some healthy optimism too. I think that's what you mentioned yesterday is like, yeah, we can go down like the pessimistic worst case doomsday scenario, but it's like we can also try to take an optimistic look, and if the inevitable doomsday does happen, like we'll just have to face it when it happens. Why? And that's something I kind of come back to every now and then is like, can't be using our time to stress and think about things that we can't control. Like right now we'll use the tools that we can, and the powers that are bigger than us are already thinking about and worrying about those things. Or at least I'm not going to be, I don't know. I don't see myself being the one that's going to be able to regulate and change that whole world, but just have to make the most of it in my day-to-day life. Is that kind of how you approached it as well?
No, I do. I mean, I think it's, I think so like personally, I think like just diving a little deeper that the last question and that follow-up. I mean, I think, I think like there's stuff that specifically I want to completely offload, like, to some sort of intelligence and be able to do it for me. And then there's some stuff where I like want to work with it.
What's an example of something that you'd want to like fully offload?
Yeah. I mean, like, so like our family, we're pretty good about like every week we typically order a set of groceries. We do it obviously online. So we're trying to make that even more simple, so we don't have to drive to the grocery store, but like we do it through like an online service. We usually have like a core set of dinners that we want to make that we kind of pick from another service that we use called Emails, which doesn't provide you any food, it just provides the recipes, and we've been using it for 10 plus years now. And and so we do that, but it's like even that is like you have to go like look at the recipes and be like, oh, okay, out of these 7, these 3 look good, so let's choose those. And then you have to go through and you got to be like, what do we have as like a staple in our cupboard that we don't need, and what are the things we do need? And then like I just see that as a space like honestly these grocery stores like know what I buy, right? Like these services know what we buy like for the last 10 years. They actually know what recipes we've chosen over the last 10 years. Like that's a perfect example of like I would be totally fine with AI picking my recipes, ordering the groceries, and they show up on my door. And then there's a little instruction booklet of like, this is how you make the food. And I don't know, maybe there'll be a robot someday that actually makes it for us too. But like, I think those types of things are the things that I'm like totally okay letting go. I will say I'm not ready to let go going to Costco though. I really like walking through Costco. I like seeing all the new products. I like
Costco's its own animal though.
It's definitely its own animal. So I don't want Costco to turn into an AI.
What if they give you like a Costco AI experience where you put the Costco glasses on and you sit on your couch and it just takes you to a virtual store?
That would actually be pretty
dope. Yeah, I mean, it's like drinking out of a fire hose right now. But for someone that's just trying to learn how to get a grasp on artificial intelligence, where do you suggest that they start? Because I think if people don't start using these tools now, they're going to get left behind, and the degree that you're working towards right now is going to be obsolete to someone that has a degree and knows how to use AI. Just the degrees, not enough. So what would be your advice to them to get into understanding artificial intelligence a little bit more?
Yeah. No, I just want to say that comment you just made about like your degree's not enough. I say that about doctors all the time too. Like the doctors that don't embrace this are not going to be doctors. Like they're going to get ushered out because the ones that do are going to be so much better, and it's going to be so much of a better experience for the patients. But I think, I guess the best advice I would do is like kind of like be curious, like talk to your colleagues, like whether that's your college colleagues or if you're doing anything in a job, like talk to them and ask them how they're starting to use it. Because I think you'll get ideas, of like, oh, I've never thought of using it that way. Maybe I should try that. And I think the other thing that I think is really powerful and has been helpful for me is like look on YouTube for like really good kind of tutorials, like on how to really kind of create really useful personalized prompts for yourself. And I think like, there's this whole notion about like being able to prompt engineering, and it sounds like super complex, but like it's actually not that hard, but you just have to understand what needs to be behind that prompt, because the power of these tools is really behind the prompt. It's not like, I mean, the tool itself is like crazy technology, but I think probably like 80 to 90% of people just are using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, like just as a glorified search engine right now.
An extension of Google or something like that. Yeah, basic questions.
Yeah. And I'd say there's one that like opened my eyes up, and we can get the link so you can put it in the show notes. But it's like this crazy like guy that made this incredible complex prompt for his businesses that he runs that basically allows these AI tools to like write job descriptions for him in the perfect like way, and just do all this like very magical stuff that would take weeks and hours, you know, for a human to develop. And because he's invested so much time on the front end with these kind of prompts that are really specific to his company, it allows all these like dividends downstream. And that's always been the notion that I tried to teach in healthcare for doctors to be most efficient, is like you have to like invest in some sort of tool or personalization at the onset, because then once you do that, you get all these benefits of that tool, you know, downstream. And that's where these types of AI tools right now that are consumerly available, like it allows, you can really make them shine personally for you.
Yeah, it's like invest the few hours on a Sunday to learn how to actually maximize the tool, and then that will repay dividends for months to come, years to come after the fact. So yeah, spend the time. I'll link to some of the resources in the show notes for sure. Before we pivot to the rapid fire question, I'm doing something new for these episodes. It's the first time I've done it. So with one of the people that I've recorded 3 episodes with, his name is Anirudh. He always finds a way to flip a question back on me before we end it. So one thing I want to add to these episodes is seeing if the guest has any questions for me before we close. And it's completely fine. Didn't prep you for it, didn't ask you for it. But if you did have any questions for me before we move into like closing thoughts and rapid fire, was going to leave the door open.
Oh yeah. No, good. I definitely have a question for you.
Yeah.
I want to understand how you in your youngness, you know, not even out of college yet, how you've been able to how you've been able to figure out like starting a business on the side, being a college athlete, doing all these things that I think for most people would take them well into their professional career to figure out. How did you do that? And what if it's something tactical you did? You should share it with people.
It's a good question. I do think about it sometimes, because I view everywhere that my time goes into like little time buckets is like how like my brain organizes it. So for example, like during the school calendar, I just have like a constant like list of like, say like there's 5 priorities in my life at a given time, and family always stays at number 1. So it's like family's the anchor at number 1, of course, and then once school starts, I would say like school goes number 2, basketball number 3, and then 4th would be business, personal, stuff I'm doing with Joey Co now. But it does get ordered and tiered like that. So I'm making sure like the main thing is the main thing up top, and then all the rest of the time that is still available in the day, I'm able to plug and fill what 4, 5, 6, 7 is. And I'll be honest, from a basketball standpoint, like that is during season. Like once I get back to school and school starts, like that gets locked in place. But over the course of like my last 3 years and going into my senior years, I have added other things to the schedule to where basketball hasn't been the main thing throughout the entire year. And for the first time in my life, that changed after my sophomore year at Dominican, and that opened up more time for me to explore. I want to do a little more time to the podcast. I had a proposal from another business student at Dominican to start this business, so I had a little more time to do that, and that stuff was exciting me a little bit more than the prospect of on the court basketball. And to be quite honest, like I wasn't getting the minutes that I felt like I deserved, and quite frankly, I wasn't seeing my investment, you know, come back. And it was the first time in my basketball career that my investment in the game wasn't getting paid back to me. I didn't understand why it wasn't getting paid back to me. So, and it's not the advice that the advice that I would give to anyone listening. It's like, do what makes you happy, do what like feels right, and channel like who you are inside. And for me, it was exploring more stuff on the podcast, trying out new business ideas, and exploring those other avenues. It wasn't sticking 100% into basketball. And I feel like I've been able to open up my mind and lifestyle to so many new things, and I've been able to meet a lot of new people too. But when and this is the thing, I still have one more year left. I'm my senior year ahead, and I'm excited to give back like basketball season. I'm gonna give it my all once I get back into it, because I really only have one more year, and I'd like to make the playoffs and have a great season. And I'd love to get on the floor. I'd love to, because basketball brings me so much joy. It's still that thing that when I'm out there on the floor, it's like only focus. And I have been able to experience similar feelings in podcasting. Like during these interviews, for example, I do like disconnect from whatever it is the outside world is, and I'm very present in the moment. I feel that when I'm hyper focused on a business project. And for me, when I get that's the feeling that like I chase, is like the hyper focused, hyper locked in version where I can focus on one thing. And it was basketball for a very long time, and now I'm exploring some other things, and I do believe it'll make my transition after basketball a lot easier, because I think my identity was so closely tied to sports. And that's why, as this podcast evolves, it's evolving with me. It's like having more of these type of conversations where it's more lifestyle, it's professional, it's business stuff too. I think as humans we evolve, and I think this is just part of my evolution. It's a long-winded answer, but I think I kind of fleshed it out.
It's a good answer. I guess my only follow-up to that is like, where did you like hear or learn about like that system that you started with, like just that kind of numbering priority thing? Did someone tell you that, or did you come up with that on your own?
It's a great question. This is actually going to be unveiled in my lifestyle Kaizen brand that I'm working on in the next month or two. If you see on the website, actually, I'm going to plug the website in real quick. On the homepage, I'm working on some lifestyle coaching, and I don't have like a lifestyle certificate or any like credentials quite yet, but I'm just learning from experience right now. So it's definitely something that I'm working on building into either a coursework or a curriculum or a package to where I can start giving those ideas to other student athletes and other people that are aspiring to organize and just get the most out of their life, whatever it is that they're trying to pursue. I think that's been like the goal with this podcast, is like channeling whatever it is that people are passionate about, like whatever the guest's passionate about. Like I love to hear those stories, but give people the tools to live it out for themselves too.
Yeah. That's great.
Cool. That was awesome. Those are great follow-up questions. It's cool to be on a podcast with a fellow podcaster. It's great. I can feel the back and forth. It's cool. All right. So for rapid fire, what is one daily habit you can't live without? That's not brushing your teeth, because you and I are the same in that one.
Yeah. No. To this day, I have not had a cavity. We talked about that last night too. Yeah. I've been very blessed with really good enamel on my teeth. No, I'd say with a habit that I have. That's every day. I honestly think it's planning to do. One thing I led with before, the activity piece, is like, almost every morning my wife and I get up and we walk our dogs. And I used to do that alone, but now we do it together unless there's something. So I think doing something for physically active. I also have a Peloton that I do as well, and so. But that I don't have enough time every day to do it. But it's like if I can mix that in. So I think I think that's probably the one habit, is making sure there's like some sort of activity. It gets your brain going and kind of sets up the day.
Absolutely. What was your favorite pregame meal at Humboldt? Or on the flip side, what's the worst one that you can remember?
It's so funny because my buddy, and I'll go back to high school actually, because my really good buddy Sean in high school, he and I were like attached to the hip and both played basketball. He ended up playing in college as well, and so we would always go out for a pregame meal like before high school, which is like, again, going back to like where you feel invincible. The two places that I cannot believe I ate before a basketball game. One was like this place called Old Chicago Pizza, which I think you've probably been to. It has like 5 pounds of cheese on it. It's in Petaluma, California, of all places. But That one, like literally, like I would be burping the entire game, and I don't know how I could perform. And then the second one was there was a place called Togo's sandwiches. There's they had a meatball sub that was like these like giant like 3-inch meatballs, and Sean and I wouldn't just get an individual sandwich. We would order the family size, which was the equivalent of 3 larges, and we would polish that thing off and somehow be able to like still have a game. I can't do that now, obviously, with exercise. Yeah, I'll quit the Peloton like 5 minutes in.
I guess you had lunch and you were like done for the day.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to really eat anymore. Yeah.
It's good. So if you could go back and give your college self one piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, that's really interesting because I like... Yeah, I don't actually think about that a lot, but I think it would probably just be like, it would probably be to like recognize early on, just keep like following like your interests and your passions, like, and like just keep, I don't know, keep engaged in those things and like in whatever you're doing, because I think all of that, when you show that interest, it's like people recognize it, and then that continues to kind of open up doors. And I think I maybe knew that inherently, but I don't think I knew that in college. That was probably something that came shortly after, probably medical school even. But that's just something that I've seen. It's you just gotta keep plugging away. You know, don't wait for like the perfect opportunity to like hit you. Just like keep plugging at it, and those opportunities will come.
And that's a really good one, because once you are very clear about whatever it is that you want to pursue, you're right. The world does a way of like opening the little doors and making things more accessible. Or like if you're at a university and there's like an initiative or a task force or like a club or something that you want to start and do, like there's people that want to help make that happen. I think that's kind of what you're saying is like channel those passions like as much as you can, because like those doors start to open. Yeah, don't be like set in your one way or one path. I think that's that's good. What's the best book or podcast that's helped shape your view on wellness or leadership?
Oh, I'm like horrible at like titles of books.
Even if something's stashed in the episode notes.
Yeah, I'll definitely get you the details. So there's like a few leadership books that I would say some of them I was kind of like forced to read, like just as a part of like a team I was on. They're like, hey, we're all going to read this. But like, I think, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I think like, I don't think there's one particular thing that's like a good Bible that you should live by. But I guess to name something specifically, honestly, the podcast that has given me more kind of thought and inspiration than anything else is the very popular one called How I Built This.
Oh, I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah, it's Guy Raz like started it a long time ago. And, it's just like that show just has tons of successful entrepreneurs, but he doesn't just talk about the successes. He really dives into like, was this just luck or was there some sort of really good, strategy you followed? And I think it's still to this day. I mean, there's plenty of great podcasts to listen to casually, but that one, like I can listen to one of those episodes and I will come out of that with like 3 to 4 ideas that I either want to like incorporate or like I start thinking about something else, as it relates to me. So, that one I think has brought more things to the table for leadership and just kind of thinking, about different thought leadership stuff than anything else.
Definitely gonna add that one. So what do you think is one thing? The last of our little rapid fire. What do you think is one thing that you do like for yourself, self-care wise? That's not like anything for business, school, work, or anything like that. That's like just for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else, but like just for you. That makes you happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a couple things. I mean, we talked about sleep.
Yes.
So like, one thing that I finally convinced my wife to get was the product called 8 Sleep, and and it's honestly like since we've had that, it's like changed our sleep, because as you get older your neck hurts a little bit more, your body aches a little more. If you drink alcohol, it don't feel as great anymore the next morning. And like, so I think really, you know, we both made the decision, but to invest in sleep, you know, so like paying a little bit more than we were comfortable with a really good mattress, and then paying for this like techie device that can control your temperature at night and everything. But it's like those things really make a difference. So I think that's that. And then I'd say the other one like I do is, you know, I've always been fascinated and really enjoyed like the art of magic, you know, because it's like, you know, I loved it because of like the engineering side of like kind of like how these like illusions or tricks or whatever work, and how there's like psychology and all this stuff mixed in. And so even to this day, I still enjoy like reading magic books and continuing to like even purchase, you know, different magic related things, because it's like, it's really fun to like, like just kind of learn that whole process behind why these things can deceive people into thinking it's like something more magical. So that's probably one of the creative things that's like stuck with me my whole life is the magic part as well.
That's awesome. Well, three really cool things from this episode. One, got to record with an awesome little fire thing in the background. So those of watching on YouTube, we have a nice little fire pit going, beautiful mountain background, and we've been on a little escape in Granby. It's been amazing, beautiful area of Colorado. Thank you so much for setting the time aside and making it happen. It's like this is one of the main things I wanted to do on this trip was to sit down and record, because we both are running our own podcasts and chasing our own startups and business world. So it's fun to sit down and connect with family, share ideas. It's been an amazing short little 5-6 day week. Do you have any little like last little closing thoughts, any closing nuggets before we close out here?
No, I'll just say I've been like wanting to do a podcast with you for a long time as well. And so it's actually like you hinted at this earlier, that it's really fun to like actually do podcasts with other people that make their own kind of podcast, because when you're hosting, you're kind of in a different mode, and and then when you're like a guest, you're in a totally different mode. But like when you're actually like doing it with someone that has done both of them, it's really fun to bounce off. So
that's what I've always loved, like the co-hosting like dynamic. I think it's always cool when you have two hosts on a show. It's like you guys can both first just do episodes on your own, so you always have content you can discuss, and then also it's like conversations with other people. It's like it makes it for a very smooth experience.
No, it's super fun, and obviously it's great to do it with this
amazing
awesome
view.
Background. And with the flames flickering in front of us.
It's not a Zoom virtual, it's real. That is a wrap for episode 62 of the True to Life podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. In the episode notes, you'll find some info about Adam, also some of the amazing tools that he left with us today. So I'll make sure those are all in the episode notes. I have some new tools to actually build out episode notes, so that's exciting, and get to dive into that. Thank you so much for tuning in. The number one way to share a podcast is through sharing or sending it to somebody else. So please do that, as well as like, comment, and subscribe to the show. So thank you so much, and that's a wrap. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.